Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hearts, and today I'll be breaking down the 14-game NBA slates we have here on DraftKings for Friday night. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Hart. I do daily slate breakdowns for the NBA and NFL here on DraftKings, where I talk through my favorite spin-up plays, mid-range options, and value plays. And then I go more in depth on my free Patreon, which you can find linked down below, where I go over my building blocks, core plays, all the slate news, all that good stuff you can find there. And I will have NBA projections out on my free Patreon as well within the next week and a half. So hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in this slate breakdown. As always, follow me on Twitter at HeartDFS. You can find my free Patreon in my link tree as well as on my Twitter profile. I'll answer any questions you guys have as well. When it comes to NBA DFS, NFL DFS, even PGA DFS, love talking DFS, so make sure to follow me there and check out my free Patreon, which is linked. Huge 14-game slate tomorrow. Pretty much every team in the league is going to be playing, so really excited for this. It's going to be chaotic, a ton of injury news, so definitely keep up to date with injury news on Twitter. You can follow me. I will, post my updated core on my Patreon and on my Twitter as well. But the first game we have is the Spurs versus Orlando. Spurs just played tonight. They were without Keldon Johnson. We'll see if he plays tomorrow. I'm not really sure. Maybe he's back. If he's back, him and Vassell look the best on this team, and then my third option would be Portal. If Keldon's out, I still think Vassell is a little bit too cheap there. He's coming off a game tonight where he didn't really shoot well, and he still got, I think, close to 40 fantasy points, around 36. I think he had almost, close to triple-double, so that's what really helped him out. Trey Jones would just look like an okay play, and I'd still prefer getting to Portal. He still played under, I think it was 25 minutes, so the minutes still aren't there with him. He's not playing the best, but if he's going to get 30 minutes or more, I do really like him. Do think he's way too cheap there at 6,200, but it's just the minutes are a huge question mark with him right now. The rest of the team, not really sure why Zach Collins is 5,800. His price has really jumped up. Unless someone gets ruled out, there's no way you should spend that for him. And then secondary guys like Richardson, Bates Diop, McDermott, they're all going to see 20-plus minutes. I just don't think there's a need to really get to any of them with this 14-game slate. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of value that opens up. So you really don't have to force any of these Spurs guys. We just kind of have to keep updated with the news. And that's really it. Yeah, it's just not a ton of interest in this Spurs side. Really just going to be Vassell, Podol, and then Vassell, Keldon, and Podol if Keldon's back. For Orlando, Wendell Carter might be back. If he's back, it definitely limits the ceiling of a guy like Paolo, 8,100. Don't think there's a need to get to him there. It would limit the ceiling of guys like, Mo Wagner, Bol, Mo Bamba. All those guys' minutes will go down. They'll start Paolo, Wendell, Franz, Markelle Fultz, and where is he? I'm assuming it's Paolo, Wendell, Franz 3, Fultz 4, and maybe Franz or Mo Wagner still. That'd be 5. Maybe they go to someone else. But yeah, not a ton of interest in this Orlando side. Wendell's still out. Paolo looks decent. You can get to a Franz who's kind of cheap there to 6,200. Doesn't have a huge ceiling. He can get 240, 50 plus if he's having like a really good night. But yeah, just not a lot of interest in these guys. Fultz priced up a little bit, 5,800. He's very, very hot and cold. Cole Anthony there, I guess he'd be my favorite play. Still not seeing the best amount of minutes. Could still get you there in about mid-20s as we saw last game versus Houston. But yeah, not a ton of interest I have in this Orlando side. Moving on to the second game, we got the Clippers versus the 76ers. For the Clippers, we know the offense is going to flow through Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So at their prices, I think they looked pretty decent. Obviously not the best matchup here going against Philly. Kind of seems like a gross matchup, but we know these guys have huge ceilings. So Paul George looks like a decent play there at 8,900. Prefer still getting to Kawhi, who's finally seen above 30 minutes, 3 straight games. So we know Kawhi has massive ceiling. He's probably end up, if he doesn't get hurt, should probably end up averaging close to 45 fantasy points a game on the season. So he does look a little bit too cheap there in this matchup. Do like him a good amount. And then all the secondary guys, you can get to them like a Wall. Batum had a good game, last game. But really, it's just going to be the top 2 guys for me. And then if you wanted to look for a cheaper guy on the Clippers, I'd say look to a guy like Zubac. Obviously, huge foul trouble here going against, Embiid. But we know he has upside. Random games, he'll play, 30 or more minutes. It's just, a dart throw there. And then Luke Kennard, his minutes limit is off. has seen, mid-20s past few games, pretty score independent, but 3,900 he does make for a solid value play. But yeah, it's really just the top two guys for me. And then if, John Wall is out, does it offer a little bit of a minutes bump for a guy like Mann, Reggie, and I guess Powell off the bench. You'd always take a dart throw on him. Pretty score independent, but he can catch fire. Moving on to Philly, Embiid, Harden, same thing. They're going to run the offense. It's going to flow through them. Everyone else is just secondary plays. So Embiid is a spin up. Do like him a good amount here. Zubac should be an easy matchup for him. And then Harden, 2 disappointing games back to back, but we know he's going to play the minutes. Has that triple double upside. So do really like both of them. And then the rest of the team, as I said, secondary plays. If you want to get to someone, I'd say it'd be Tobias. He should see mid-30s minutes. He does play most of the game. And, he's not going to be the main option, going to be that third scorer, but he could definitely get you there at 6,200. Not a bad price. And that's really it. No interest in any of these other guys. I mean, Niang off the bench could see anywhere between 10 to 25 minutes on how well he's shooting. But, yeah, no real interest in the guys there. Moving on to Minnesota and Boston. For Minnesota, Anthony Edwards looks like a solid play. He looks like an even better play if Gobert is out, because it really raises the ceiling of a guy like Anthony Edwards when it comes to rebounding. As we can see from those 3 games that Gobert was out, he had 11, 7, and 13 rebounds. Gobert was back. He only got 4. So it's pivotal when it comes to Anthony Edwards is knowing, what Gobert is, if he's going to be in or out. If Gobert's in, I think he may be my favorite play here, even though Boston could go small, could limit Gobert's minutes, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But yeah, it really comes down to if Gobert's in and out. If he's out, like Anthony Edwards, a good amount, like D'Lo, a good amount. If he's in, I really just like getting into maybe Gobert, and that's about it. D'Lo would look decent. He's been solid, even in games where he doesn't score over 10 points, still able to usually get you at least 30 with Cat still being out. The rest of the team, I mean, they're just there. Noel's going to beat that scorer off the bench. Rivers is being a good run, 36 minutes again. So you can look to him. Easy scoring dependent at times, but yeah, not a lot of interest right now. We just had to kind of wait for the Gobert news for Boston. I do like Tatum a good amount here. Obviously, a great matchup going against Minnesota. We know we're going to get from Tatum. Prices come down a little bit, so 10-8 looks like a great spend up. Jaylen Brown, 9,500, not for me. He's been good, but really just rather pay up for a Tatum. And then Marcus Smart, going to be a secondary play. If he's out, we can look to a guy like Derek White to fill in. They did start Peyton Pritchard the other day. He was terrible. 17 minutes, only 12 fantasy points, but I don't mind going back to the well if he starts again. He's a good 3-point shooter, can get people involved offensively with assists, so you can definitely look to him at 3,300. Grant Williams should see 15-ish minutes. The front court's kind of crowded now with Robert Williams back and Horford. Both of them at their prices look solid. Brogdon, all these guys are just secondary plays. No real interest in getting to them unless you have the price and you can just kind of fall on them. But yeah, Horford, 5,000, offers decent upside. Robert Williams, 4,300. Played 22 minutes, so the minutes are slowly coming up. He's able to get through there because he's just very, very productive when he's out there. So maybe he's going to be my favorite play on this Boston side besides Tatum. Moving on to Toronto and Cleveland. Toronto, Pascal has been fantastic the past few games. He's playing massive amount of minutes, 38 points, 50 to 76 fantasy points overall in that last game. So his best game of the season, one of his career best games as well. So if you want to ride the hot streak with Pascal, don't mind it, but not the best matchup here. Pretty slow-paced game with Cleveland. Van Fleet is there. He's been doing better recently. You can definitely get to him, but once again, not the best matchup going against Cleveland. The rest of the team, no real standout plays for me. That's really it. Moving on to Cleveland. Mitchell, we know he's going to be the lead scorer, so you can get to him. 9,000 is not the best price point for him, but he's there. Same thing with Garland, just more of a contrarian play. Going to have zero ownership. But he's just not been, consistent alongside Mitchell for the past 2 weeks. But he's there. And then the tall guys, Allen looks okay. He's playing a ton of minutes. So I guess I don't mind him there at 6,700. It's just no real interest. If Mobley is out, though, do like Allen a good amount. Should raise his floor and ceiling. And then a guy like Kevin Love should see some more minutes off the bench. Past 2 games, 24 and 29. As I talked about, he's always a great GPP option just because he can easily go off in a small amount of minutes and do very well. So 4,200, I think he might be my favorite play once again on this Cleveland side. Moving on to, or I'll always mention, where is he? Seti. He should see at least 15 minutes in most games. If Pipolo's out, he should see more. But yeah, he's a solid point per minute guy. He's pretty up and down, but he's definitely there if you want to go to a very cheap value guy. Moving on to Chicago and the Knicks. Repeat from the other day. As I said with the Bulls every time, DeMar is going to be the safest option. Been very, very solid when it comes to scoring the ball the past 2 weeks. So don't mind going to him there. Not the best price point, but he's solid. Zach LaVine's price has come up a little bit. He's getting a little bit better recently. And then Vooch, coming off of 2 huge games. A little bit of a disappointing game there versus Atlanta when he was super chalky. So I don't mind getting to him. They just all look priced about right. Pat Williams' price has come up to $4,500. He's playing the minutes, but not the best value play. Kobe White should see a good amount of minutes with Caruso most likely being out tomorrow. Shot 2 of 8, so got you 25 fantasy points. A little bit of an outlier, but 4,000. Don't mind him as a value play. Drummond did decent as well. He's always there, but the minutes aren't secure. And then Dragic, if he's out, it definitely raises the floor even more for a guy like Kobe White. And then you could look to Ayo. Played 34 minutes last game. Not the most productive, but he is definitely in there when it comes to the minutes, especially if Dragic is out. They'll rely heavily on him, Ayo, and Kobe White. For the Knicks side, I do have a good interest in the Knicks because the Bulls seem to let up a ton of points. Randall looks like a very solid spin-up play. He's just playing a ton of minutes. He's been playing very, very well recently. Double-double in 5 straight games. So his last game versus the Bulls on the 16th, or the 15th, or excuse me, 14th, 46 minutes, 57 fantasy points. 2 days later against the Bulls once again, put up a 50 bomb. You can kind of expect the same thing tomorrow, unless he shoots very, very bad. It looks like a great spot for him. Same thing for Brunson. He's been great recently. Put up 45 and then 41 against the Bulls. So I think Brunson is my favorite play there for 7,100. Barrett playing a ton of minutes as well. His floor is kind of risen and ceiling as well. Only put up 35 and 35 against the Bulls, but all 3 of them are going to score and do well in this matchup for Brunson, but the other 2 look very solid as well. And then Mitchell Robinson should see a good amount of minutes. He saw, 36 and 28 versus the Bulls because they have Vooch. Mitchell Robinson should be in there. So he looks decent as a nice tournament option with solid upside. Quickly started. He did decent. If he starts again, I like him. If he's coming off the bench, looks okay. Quentin Grimes, 4,700. It looks like a decent value play. And that's really it. Not a ton of interest besides the main 3 for the Knicks. Moving on to Detroit and Atlanta. We got Bogdan, who's going to lead the team in terms of usage. The main scorer, obviously score independent at times. So 6,300, don't mind the price tag. It's just there's no real priority to get to on this Detroit side besides maybe a guy like Ivy. Hayes has upside, but he's just super up and down. You just don't feel great rostering any of these Detroit Pistons guys. Even Ivy, 43 fantasy point game, becomes super chalky. 7 and 18 real life points, 26 fantasy points. The price isn't bad, 5,300, but he still has a very low floor. Really has some flash ceiling even without Cade. Stewart's always there. Don't mind Duran, 5,000 here against Atlanta. I think he'd be my favorite play still. His 20 or more fantasy points pretty much in every game since he started. So I do like him a good amount. Not going to shoot the ball a ton, but he can definitely get you there with the rebounds, steals, blocks. So I think he'd be my favorite play at 5,000. And then you can get to a Burks tournament option. Minutes aren't great. Same thing with Bagley. Same thing with Bay. They're just kind of there. There's no real strong take on any of them. Really would rather get to, Duran, Bogdan, or an Ivy. On Atlanta side, looks fantastic here for Trae Young. Just hope this game stays close enough for them to get full run. But if he's going to get full run, like Trae a good amount here. Been playing better recently, so 10-2, very solid price tag for Trae. Excuse me. DeJounte Murray, 8,700. He looks great as well. A little bit lower of a floor, not the best price point for DeJounte, but he still has 40, 50 plus upside. So you can definitely go to him. He should be playing pretty much the whole game. So great matchup. Just hope the game stays close. Do really like both of these guards. Capella, if he's back, you can go to him. If he's not on a minutes limit, I do like him a good amount. If he is on a minutes limit, no need to get to him. And then Bogdan, going to play the minutes, at least 30. But with, the main guards back, his floor a little bit lower and the ceiling as well. So I think it's just a fair price to pay for Bogdan. There's no real need to get to him. John Collins is there. Minutes have been limited. That's really it. You can get to a Hunter. You can get to a Griffin. Hunter's going to play a ton of minutes. More of a 3-and-D guy. And then Griffin, kind of the same thing off the bench. He's been productive recently, but the minutes haven't been there. So yeah, it's just really going to be the top 2 guys for me, and maybe Capella if he's back. Moving on to Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Should be a good game to watch, but in terms of fantasy, don't love it. Because obviously Brooklyn is the Bucks are a very good defensive team. So on the Milwaukee side, though, love Giannis 12-2 if you can get up to him and he plays. Great matchup here for him. Same thing for Drew. Chris Middleton is doubtful, so Giannis and Drew should lead the charge in terms of offense. So I like them in a good amount. Middleton most likely doubtful. I do like Bobby Portis here. Price came back down to 6,100. He's going to see between 19 and 30 minutes depending on how he's playing. Obviously has huge upside, double upside. It helps that Chris Middleton is out, so Bobby should be aggressive off the bench. I do like him here in this spot against Brooklyn a good amount. And Brook Lopez does look a little bit too cheap. He should figure to shoot, close to 10 times, has massive upside with the blocks. Yeah, he's been decent this year, so I do like him and Bobby. And then guys like Allen, Carter, Ingles, Connaughton, all going to see like 15 to 25 minutes. You can get to them, but no real priorities. It's really just going to be the main 4 guys for Milwaukee. On Brooklyn, KD and Kyrie look very, very solid. They're going to do their thing. No real standout between the two for me. Maybe KD, even though he's $2,000 pricier. And then I do like Ben Simmons a good amount here. He should see, full run. He saw 32 a couple of days ago, then 25 because the game, or he's in foul trouble. Wasn't doing the best, so he only saw 25, and then 19 because the game blew out in foul trouble once again. So he's foul prone. There is that risk of him guarding Giannis and getting foul trouble, but if you're going to see close to 30 minutes, if not more, he looks great there at 6,200. He has massive upside. So I do like riding with Ben Simmons, even with that foul risk. And then the rest of the guys are there, like Claxton. Sure, you can get to him. Royce O'Neal, same thing. You can get to these guys, but I just rather get to the main stars or get value from a different team. For Indiana, if Halliburton is good to go, plays here tomorrow, love him. His price is great there at 9,300. Miles Turner, I do think he's a little bit too cheap as well. As I mentioned, it seems like every 4 games he has a huge game. So this tomorrow, not the best matchup going against Miami, but he does have some very, very solid upside. And then Buddy Hield's price is dropping down to 6,000. I don't mind it. Just prefer getting to Halliburton and Turner. And then the rest of the team, Mathurin's going to be a decent tournament option. So should see around 30 minutes. Naismith has actually been doing well recently. I still don't trust it. You can go there, but he is questionable. But yeah, no real interest in anyone else on this team unless, Halliburton and Naismith are going to be out. So we'll have to wait for that. For Indiana, Jimmy is probable. So with him back and pretty much everyone back, really don't have any interest in these Miami guys. I mean, Jimmy's just more of a contrarian play. Tyler Hero, he's been great this year, but it just seems too pricey for me. Same thing with Bam. With, Jimmy back, it does, spread the usage out to all these 4 main guys. And I think maybe Victor would still be my favorite. Started to play 34 minutes, did not shoot the ball well, but he should see, I guess, mid-20s minutes, maybe a little bit more depending on how he's doing off the bench. And then Strus, always a tournament option, but he just has not been shooting the ball well this year. Moving on to the Pelicans, they're coming off a back-to-back. I don't think anyone's going to be sitting out, but if Zion is back, it makes CJ Moore just like an okay first play, maybe more of a secondary play. I mean, he's coming off a huge game tonight. Price is still very solid, great matchup, but 8,300, there's that risk that they just go through Zion, and CJ's just more of that secondary guy, but that is the big news we have to watch out for is Zion, and the same with Larry Nance. If he's back, J-Bal's been very solid recently, 73. I think he got 30 tonight, another double-double, but he is very risky when it comes to the minutes and foul trouble. So great matchup for him here against OKC, but if Larry Nance is back, there is always that risk to go to Larry Nance. At his price tag, no interest there. Zion's out once again. CJ looks great. J-Val looks, pretty solid, but risky. And then Herb Jones, Murphy, and Marshall all look like decent value plays. Now that Marshall's priced up to 4,400, no real need to get to him. Would rather get to Jones or Murphy with the lead going to Murphy there at 4,600. And then Alvarado, we'll see those backup point guard minutes. Moving on to OKC, SGA, we know the offense is going to go through him. He's been fantastic this year, super, super consistent. So he always makes for a very solid spin-up play. Pretty safe. Doesn't offer like the biggest ceiling. He's scoring a pin at times, but he's definitely there. Josh Giddey is back. You can get to Josh. Doesn't have the best ceiling playing along SGA, but he's definitely there. And the rest of the team, you can get to Dort if you want, but it's really just going to be the top 2 guys for me. Williams is going to be the best option when it comes to the cheaper guys. Poco's just not seeing enough minutes. Kenrich Williams has been productive when he's out there, but now that Giddey's back, he should be handling the ball more. So, yeah, it's really going to be just the two guys at the top for me. Moving on to Dallas and Houston. Fantastic spot here for Luka. I mean, if you can get up to him, it's probably the best spot in the NBA right now is playing Houston. So, Luka at 12.5 looks fantastic. Just hope more value opens up to get to Luka. But for right now, going to throw him there in the lineup. Christian Wood, 7,700. If he starts, he looks great. Revenge game narrative. But that really depends on if DFS is back. And if he is, they'll probably start Powell in DFS, and they'll bring Wood off the bench. If they do, 7,700, don't think it's a great price for him when he comes off the bench. Really just prefer getting to him if he starts. So that's the news with Wood. And the rest of the team, you can get to these guys, but they're all priced about right. You know, Hardaway's all the way up to 5,500. Not the best price for a guy who's super score independent. I mean, Bullock's going to see minutes, but he's been terrible. And that's really it. It's just really going to be Luka or Christian Wood, depending on who Wood starts. Houston side, Porter Jr., Green, both there. We know they're going to shoot the ball a ton, play a ton of minutes. I guess I'd rather get to Green now that he's priced down to 6,800. Score independent, but we know he has massive upside if he's hitting his shots. So I think he'd be a decent ring back. Sengun, 6,000. He looks okay. His just minutes are just all over the place. He is foul prone at times. So you can definitely get to him. Not a bad price tag at 6,000. He's just there. Same thing with Jabari Smith. He's been decent. You can get to him. But it really, the only interest is going to be in the top two, as I pretty much say every time for the Rockets, until Sengun shows that he can, play consistent. In terms of value, Gordon is out. So Martin, Eason, and maybe they'll bring in a guy like Knicks off the bench. But it's going to be just, Eason and KJ Martin for the value, with me preferring Eason at 3,500. If you see it's about 20 minutes, he's a very, very solid point per minute guy. Has huge upside as well. So I think Eason would be my second favorite play if you're not going to play one of the guards. Portland, Denver, another great game to watch. Dame has been fantastic. He's questionable. I'll see if he's going to miss. It looks like he's probable, but if he ever does if he does miss this game, Simon's at 6,900 would be an absolute lock. And Grant would look great there too at 6,900. There carry the offense, but with Dame probable, 10,000. I don't mind riding the hot streak with him. Not a great game against OKC, 6-19, but before that, 43, 51, 30, 60 fantasy points. So Dame has been on a little bit of a hot streak. Don't mind him there. It's 10,000. Always has low ownership. The rest of the team, with Dame back, is just kind of there. I mean, these guys are all probable, so no real interest in any of these guys. You can get to them. Josh Hart is kind of cheap. He's not going to shoot the ball a ton, but he does have, kind of double-double, triple-double upside. So he's there. If for some reason Nurkic misses, you can look to Eubanks at 4,000. But yeah, Winslow, value play, 16 minutes. Minutes are all over the place, but he looks like a decent value play there at 3,300 as the main guy off the bench. Moving on to Denver, Jokic at 12,000. He's another guy who's been playing fantastic this year. If you can pay up for him, he looks great. Almost had a triple-double in that first game against Portland this year. DeJounte Murray at 7,000. If he does play, I do like him a good amount. Should see full minutes. He's been a lot better recently. Has decent upside, so at 7,000, I do like him. And then Gordon, Porter Jr. should see probably 15 to 20 minutes. He'll be on a minutes limit. No real interest with Porter Jr. back. That takes Bruce Brown out of contention. And that's really it. Value, Jeff Green, going to be your best value play. Don't know if we can expect 24 minutes, probably around 15 to 20. Decent point per minute guys. So, yeah, really the interest is going to be Jokic and Murray. Moving on to Memphis, we got Ja at the top, 10-4. Looks great. We know Ja is the whole team, so even if Bane is back, he's probably going to be limited. Still really like Ja. And I do like Jaren Jackson Jr. going on here at 6,500. Super foul prone and, risky when it comes to that, but still hasn't seen 30 minutes, which I'm not really sure why. If we get 30 minutes out of Triple J, I'd love him, even though there is that foul trouble. So do like riding with Triple J tomorrow against Phoenix. Not the best matchup, but Phoenix is once again, running shorthanded. And then the rest of the team is there. I mean, Steven Adams makes for a solid GPP play. That's really it. No real interest in anyone else besides Ja and Triple J and maybe Steven Adams. Phoenix, Booker out once again. So Chris Paul looks very solid as 8,300. Not the best matchup for Paul in terms of guarding, Ja, but we know he's going to carry the load for this team. So he looks decent. Ayton, I do think I have a good amount of interest in Ayton. He's shown that he's going to be very aggressive with Booker out. Should shoot 15 plus times and has been, very, very solid the past, I'd say, month in terms of double-double upside. He's been playing very, very well. So at 7,900, I do like Ayton a good amount here. Again, Steven Adams and the rest of the team. I mean, Mikal Bridges has just been terrible the past few games. They've been playing Shamet. Shamet's coming off a huge game. Don't think you need to chase that. He's very, very score independent. Craig looks decent. Biyombo should see the backup center run. I mean, Damian Lee has been terrible, but he's seen minutes at times. So, I mean, the only interest really is going to be Chris Paul and Ayton, maybe Bridges if you want to get lucky, and then maybe Craig. Moving on to the last two games here. Porzingis, if he didn't play tonight, if he plays tomorrow, love him in this matchup against Sacramento, another team you want to target. Kuzma, if Porzingis is back, he looks a little bit too pricey. Beal would be a decent play there at 8,000. But really, if Denny's back as well, the only interest I have in the side is going to be Porzingis at the top. I mean, if they're all out once again, I do think Kuzma looks great. Same with Beal. You can get to a Morris. Gafford would look decent at 4,800. And then Will Barton, Hachimura, Kispert will probably start. He was pretty solid tonight. So it really just depends on if Porzingis and Denny are back or if they're out. And Delon Wright might be back for this game tomorrow. So what to see about that. That eats into Morris's minutes and that eats into Goodwin's minutes and a little bit of Will Barton off the bench. Sacramento, Sabonis has been fantastic the past month. So he looks very solid here. Playing a ton of minutes. So don't mind going to him at that price tag. Fox, just kind of there for me. No real interest. And then the secondary guys like Herter, Barnes, Monk, Murray, you can get to them. My favorite would be Herter and Monk. They're just great tournament options. Monk coming off a few bad games. Don't mind getting him here at 5,000 off the bench. And then moving on to the last game, we got Charlotte versus the Lakers. We got LaMelo Ball at the top, 9,800. People have been sleeping on him this year, but he's been fantastic. As you can see, the past three games, 47, 50, and 63. 9,800 makes for a very, very solid spin up here against the Lakers. Kelly Oubre only in contention if Rozier is out. If Rozier is back, then the only interest for me is going to be LaMelo Ball at the top for me. And a guy like Gordon Hayward, 6,100, a little bit too cheap. He's playing a ton of minutes. Not shooting the ball a ton or the best recently, but has the rebound upside, assist upside. So 6,100, him and LaMelo are the favorite plays for me. The rest of the guys are just there. I mean, PJ's 5,300. He's pretty cheap. Does offer some upside. But yeah, LaMelo back, the ball is just going to be in his hands the whole time. You can get to Rozier as like a very risky play, but the only interest really for me in the Charlotte side is going to be LaMelo and Gordon Hayward for their price points and their upside. And then for the Lakers, 80 is out. LeBron looks fantastic once again. We'll throw him in there. We'll take out Luka. We'll go back to Triple J. And we'll just leave it as that's for now. But yeah, LeBron looks fantastic. Going to lead this team once again. Do like Russ off the bench. He didn't play in the last game, but he's probable for tomorrow. Has huge upside, triple-double upside. So I do like playing both him and LeBron. They should carry the load for this Lakers team. And the secondary guys like Thomas Bryant, Lonnie, Schroeder, Reeves, they're all there. I'd prefer getting to Reeves out of that whole bunch. Has the safest amount of minutes. Not going to shoot the ball a ton, but he's been pretty productive when he's out there. But that's really it. It's going to be just LeBron and Russ, and then secondary play would be Reeves. I mean, Thomas Bryant, his price point, decent. Going to be playing at least 30 minutes if the game stays close. So he's solid. Don't mind him. But it's really just going to be LeBron and Russ for me. And yeah, that's going to do it for the breakdown. I will have an updated core on my free Patreon tomorrow and Twitter once we get more news. I'm sure this slates will be, riddled with injury news by like 2 or 3 p.m. tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Hit the like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.